and today we're here to discuss relational differences.
Like, are you one of those people who likes your toilet tissue over or under, or like you just started a relationship or in college, you just like to put on the sink?
Or the floor.
Different ways that we're raised, complete opposites,
Complete.
polar opposites, like desert and
Arctic.
what's the other
Tundra.
climate?
Tundra.
Yeah, that's a good. I was gonna say like snow. That's a good one. See, different. But I was also thinking about differences even in the way that you talk and in the way that you think about things like psychologically. And that has a lot to do with how your relationship is and how you can relate to one another and how
Sure.
conversation goes and even how you move forward.
Yeah, so I think that it's very important to really understand each other and understand the aspects in which we're coming from and the way that people thought processes were that you hinted at. And the way that your partner genuinely like things, it can be very relieving in a relationship where pressures can build up to allow a lot of stress to be that if we can just understand the concept of how our partner was raised up, how their thought process is, how their sensitivity is to other things and things of such. So
Because, like, in the way he was raised, his house is like very disciplinary. Not saying that my house wasn't, but in my house it was more like free. Not saying like I didn't get whoopings because I got some of the worst that you can imagine, and my family was more whatever. Him and my dad are like BFF, so whatever. But I got a lot of verbal, like talking tos and like getting you together like that. But I did get a lot of whoopings too. But like with our kids, we do have children. We have 2 children, and we have their babies. They're young.
yeah.
So his method is like, I'm going straight to whooping you. Like, you're not getting, we're not talking about it. But for me, I'm like, okay, let's talk. And like, but, so how do we cohabitate is a really good question. I know you're probably thinking, I was thinking it. How do we cohabitate?
For DHR purposes, that's not true. But no, I think it's important. It's compromise, honestly. Understanding where the line is drawn. Like if we say, instance, for example, our parenting, because I was raised in a house that was very straightforward, very disciplinary. Hey, you do this and you do it this way, or the consequences for it are going to be severe. Because I was raised in that way, I didn't notice until I met my wife and we were raising children that I was the same way. I guess just because of the way that I was raised. But one thing that I have learned is just understanding her and where she gets uncomfortable with my disciplinary. Because when she begins to get uncomfortable with it, then just her character, her nature just is to speak up because it's her children when she feel like they're being injustice. So at first it was very hard because we had a lot of while I'm talking to the kids, we would not get in an argument, but we would have to debate on where the lines are. So it was
Which
kind
is
of
not good. Don't do that in front of the kids.
yeah, and it probably was very confusing for our children. But we began to understand just through various communication, just saying, hey, when this is going on, this is what I think you should do. Hey, this is what I think I should do. And just situations like that, but also like saying, hey, let's get behind closed doors and kind of discuss how we want to do it and not do it in front of the kids. But
Or other people.
yeah.
Like, we've never really had a problem with that because we're really good at communication. But whenever you have relational differences, don't like out your partner in front of people. I mean, first of all, it creates like distance between you two, and it creates distance between you two, not in front of just other people, but just like it kind of demotes your partner in front of someone, or just in general. You don't want to do that. You don't want to tear your partner down. Jokingly we say things, but you don't want to basically tear them down and then you have to like clear that up later. So just be very thoughtful about how you come at that, and then you can cohabit very easily.
And just the thing that she said, something came to me while she was talking about that, is when you act that way in front of other people towards your partner or whatever relationship that you're in, it don't just have to be friendships, anything like that, then it gives other people
The right.
the right to think that they can do that also.
Yeah.
It's just like you kind of tell your children, hey son, don't talk to your mom that way in front of your company, because then they feel like they have the right to talk to her in the same way. So you show her respect and your friends will show respect. And it's the same way as far as in a relationship, especially fellas. I mean, when we get around the guys, our persona change, we get munchoed up, and we have issues communicating, right? Because I mean, society tells us that we're soft if we're gentle to our lady. So sometimes we have a hard time differentiating and being able to show that vulnerability while we're in front of the fellas, because we don't want them to think that way. So we'll find ourselves handling our lady a little rough and things like that. But then we get frustrated when your brothers or your friends or your close friends, they don't show that same respect. So we just have to be very mindful of the way that we handle our partner in front of others, just in general. One problem in relationships is that we mistake compatibility as similarity.
Yeah, and the fact that just because you're similar, it doesn't mean that you're compatible.
Yeah.
Or just because you're compatible, it doesn't mean that you're going to have similarities.
Yeah, and also just embracing the differences. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's very important, that we do not stray away from each other just because we're different. I mean, we have to understand that the differences is what make the thing come together.
Yeah, he was saying like a yin and yang. It definitely, your strengths will definitely, I would say, compose you, because we're so different. We're so unique, and we're so different. One of the things that someone told me a while ago is that God made us all different and he made us all unique. Why is that? Because if we were all the same, we'd all do the same. So don't try to force your partner or your sister or your mom or your dad or anybody you have a relationship. Don't try to force them into being just like you.
Yeah, I agree
It's
with
your
that.
differences that make you stronger.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
So then that leads us into how you desire to be loved, how you receive love, and how you give love.
Yeah.
And I know that it sounds like desire to be loved and receive love is the same, but it's not.
What she stated to me, which just blew my mind, was sometimes you can desire something but not necessarily not receive it because it's not as you desire. You still can receive, I guess, a lesser amount than you would as far as desire. Like her favorite car is a G-Wagon. Just because that's her favorite car, that's her desire. If she gets another car, she's not going to not receive it just because it's not what she desires. So I didn't know that. So I mean, we do have a desire in love, but we also have a standard in which we will receive and accept as love.
It's variations.
But, and also how we give love. So I just thought that was amazing.
Thanks. You definitely give love different than received or desired. Well, I don't want to say that, because when you desire love, sometimes I love to talk and I love to spend time and I love to cuddle and I love all those things, like the warm and fuzzies. And maybe I could give that the same way when he wants to do other things or is adventurous, or definitely this is opposite, but definitely doing those things. Or even some people have a sexual desire in the way that they want to, or physical, I will say physical, one of the physical, like touching or giving and receiving in that kind of way. Like there's 5 different aspects of love.
5 love languages.
Yeah, 5 love languages, but we'll go over that in another video. But just to do skin on the surface of that, you can give and receive love. Don't get that mixed up, kind of like compatibility and similarities, because it's easy to do that.
Yeah, and one issue that I have found to be prevalent in a lot of relationships is we try to give into the manner in which we want to receive.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
And that can be a big issue, because if that person doesn't receive the love in that way you're trying to give it, then it's always going to be a disconnect, or a person will feel like, well, why don't you love me? Or why don't you that? Because you just automatically reject the things in which I desire to be loved in, because you want to be loved. Now, like, some people just aren't communicative people, so talking and things like that may not be as well. But if you just come in the house and you just plant him with a kiss, that can just make his day, or vice versa, you know. Her day. So I mean, it's very important that we communicate properly, and we kind of get to understand what our partner not only desire, but the way in which they will receive love. How what opened their eyes to love? What make them say, "Oh, I'm being loved right now," other than we just have a traditional friendship.
Because these are the differences in a relationship. The relational differences that we can cohabit. When you learn those things, you're able to cohabit with one another.
Exactly. So in Amos, it says, Amos 3:3, that how can two walk together unless they're agreed? So in the comments, please tell us differences in which that you would think is that, so we can come back to this topic, because it's so broad, but we just didn't have a lot of time to go into it. So in the comment bar, just let us know what you're thinking, so that we can actually come back at a later date and just kind of discuss those things. And
what are your relational differences?
Exactly.
Or you can check us out on IG at Oscar and Tanisha, and just let us know in the comments or messages what your relational differences are, and we can do a part 2. Check us out. Subscribe below. Thanks for watching.